Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan. With me on this fantastic Friday is Ron. Arite Ron.
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. We are on the road here to Superman and Fantastic Four. It's almost kind of surreal that it's already here, but it's right on our doorstep now, and we're going to continue that road today with a really fun comic discussion. So I'm stoked.
And Chris, Arite Chris.
I am doing good. Normally this is where I throw in a Fantastic Four pun, but I have to surprise Galactus a little bit and not do that. So I'm doing good. 7 days till Superman. When I wake up tomorrow, life is good.
And by the time everybody's listening to this, it will be just a couple days away for you because you got the Tuesday showing. So that's good. I'm not upset with you. I've come to terms with it. So
He's gonna be like that person who, like, when they buy someone a present and it's like, you want to know what I got you? You want to know what I got you? Like when he sees it to like prevent spoilers. That's literally what he's
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you mentioned it. We're talking life story, Fantastic Four. So this is one I read. I think this was a 2021. I think I read it around then or 2022 when I was really kind of starting to get a box at my local comic shop and kind of reading those comics. It's just something about the cover, I think, of issue 1 that pulled me in, that I was like, oh, I want to read some more Fantastic Four stuff. This looks like a pretty standalone thing. Let me like dive in here. Because I'd been reading like the original Fantastic Four issues, at that time. So I actually found out about this life story before I found out about Spider-Man life story. That is the one that most people seem to know. People put that usually pretty high, but I will say I wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man life story. I read it after this one though, so maybe that's why. Because I feel like this is a much better life story than Spider-Man life story. I just think they did a better job completely. But for people that don't know what this is like, I guess these are the only two that have a life story so far in Marvel, but it's kind of like they truncate all of canon into 6 issues and set them in different decades for each issue. So this starts in the 60s when Fantastic Four launched, and each one kind of comprises of stories that were kind of in that era.
with some tweaks. Because it is technically a variant universe. There is some tweaks, like, Johnny not coming back to life, things like that. Like they're like almost creative retellings of the classic events that we know.
Yeah, so like for Spider-Man life story, they still do like the Clone Saga, in the 90s, right? Like it's that kind of thing. Like you mentioned, Johnny was killed in main continuity at some point, and then did come back in this. He spoiler alert, stays dead. But by the way, my power just flickered there for a second, so if I lose it, go without me until I can get it back up. But right. That's a thing there. But Ron, I was actually like, you're the Fantastic Four fan. So when I was rereading it, like, you're the big Fantastic Four fan. When I was rereading
I wouldn't put that on myself too much. I don't want to oversell myself.
Out of the three of us, like I've dove into it, but not like I consider myself more of a Spider-Man, fan. But when I was rereading it, I kind of was like, oh my God, I hope he likes this. Like, this is, there are some choices here I forgot from like the years ago, like Johnny dying, that I was like, I wonder how that's going to play for a hardcore fan, or like the Reed and Sue, like breaking up and coming back together. I was like, I wonder how this is going to play for like a fan like that. So I was very pleased when I saw your message when you finished reading it and I woke up. So why don't you just kind of share your initial thoughts after you finished reading?
Yeah. So I hadn't read Fantastic Four for a while before this, mainly at this point for the last like year or so, just because it was like, I'd rather just wait and like use it as a way to get more hyped for the movie. But we said we were going to do this, and I didn't really expect it to be much. I just kind of thought it would be, it's one of those don't judge a book by its cover sort of things. Cause like I went into it just being like, oh, it's just going to be a retelling of all the classic like Fantastic Four stories. Cool, whatever. But like, not at all. It felt like they remade them for a mature adult audience. Like not in the terms of violence or like gore or sexual shit, anything like that. But like the relationships, right? Like the stuff with Sue and Namor. I think for me, the thing that resonated with me most from these is how adult it all felt with the interactions with them and the heavy-handed stuff like Johnny dying, like Reed essentially sacrificing himself, going into like this vegetative state, all this stuff. It's not really infidelity because they split up, but like that very real thing of like husbands breaking away from the marriage and it's affecting the kids at home to where, Franklin's calling him Dr. Richards and stuff, just like very real heavy-handed stuff that I thought they did really, really well. I'm not afraid to say that I was welling up at certain points of this. Like this, it was just like hit me on the right night or whatever, but like probably my favorite just 6-issue sit down short read it like short little run that I ever read. Like it was fantastic. I'm so excited to get into the rest of it with y'all today.
Yeah, no pun intended there. I bet, right? I didn't see you.
It really wasn't. Damn it.
Yeah. Chris, give me your thoughts on
at the beginning of the show, so I guess I just subliminally throw it in.
Chris, now you're somebody that hasn't read a lot of Fantastic Four, so why don't you give me your thoughts on this story as somebody that's maybe not as familiar with the comics of Fantastic Four?
Well, I've actually been getting into some of the Marvel Unlimited, like some Fantastic Four stuff here, and I've been enjoying it. But Life Story was the first time I was like, okay, it's clicking, everything's like setting into place. This is Fantastic Four, and this is kind of what I'm setting like my bar at for Fantastic Four early into my journey with the characters. I would say that I was like Ron, really touched by the emotionality of this story. I had a really hard time with just the parents splitting and Franklin being in that. I love the narration from each issue, and I thought it had almost like a Superman for All Seasons feel, where every issue was a different narrator. And the one that really got to me was Johnny, when he's talking about life is a party and we work so hard to make it not be, or pretend that it's not a party. And you always want to leave the party before it's uncool. And
that was one of the moments for me, dude. On, like, oh my God.
I think that is the best issue of the whole thing. And I think I thought Johnny's relationships with Sue, with Ben, with Franklin really put it all together. And I think it was like the emotional glue. And so that's why his sacrifice hit the group so damn hard. And I think that's why it's such an emotional story. And I actually had to take a break after reading that issue, because I was just like, okay, I'm hit. I'm down for the count. That I was like, why am I so emotional? And then I just think it reflects life so much. This reflects life in general. As a guy who was born in the 90s, there was a shot with the Twin Towers in there too, and it's just like, oh my God,
Chris. But one thing that when you were talking about the Johnny thing, I think a big part of why I like this so much clicked for me, like because it was a shorter thing, they didn't have to bring him back. You know what I mean? They didn't have to totally just nerf that whole awesome, like basically tribute comic to Johnny by just bringing him back in the last one to like help save Doom or help save the world from Doom. Like there were stakes. It was real. Like at the end, Reed wasn't just okay at the end of the day. You know what I mean? He had that one final moment that Johnny, like when they're having that conversation in his psyche and he reaches for the head of the bot and he does the thing, but that's it. He's still like essentially just, kind of like how he is.
And he sees Johnny in his imagination and he goes, what are you doing here? And Johnny says, well, I don't know. It's your imagination. You tell me. But this story was such about sacrifice, and not just about sacrifice. It was about doing the things that nobody was willing to do, or people were ignoring what they needed to do. And you had the whole Galactus is coming storyline, and people just it's funny because it was like life just moved on. The Galactus came, they saved the day, and life just went back to normal. People found things to be upset about again. I, there's so much depth here. I should probably let somebody else talk because I've rambled, but it hit me, man. This issue really, I think these issues just really resonated with me, and I thought the writers were like, okay, we got a lot of layers here, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was reading this, and I'm like, well, the 5th issue, they handle Galactus. I'm like, we're like kind of shocked. Like, all right, so what do we do here? And it's like, of course, it goes back to Doctor Doom. But the way that they do it, of like, everybody is like, the bar that they're going to is like no longer accepting cash at some point. Like, they are done. They're like, we are counting down. This is over. End of the world. But then and everybody's harmonized at that point. But as soon as the world has a future again, people start looking out for their own interest again, right? And it becomes, just the human greed, continues in this. Ron, you mentioned the, Franklin calling him Dr. Richards and stuff. I love this parallel because that was earlier on in the 2nd issue in the 70s, but at the last issue of it, right? Franklin says his name is Daddy, right? When earlier he was saying Dr. Richards, and Sue was like, that's Daddy, right? Mm-hmm. But like the flip there, where Franklin was then the one to say that, as one thing that always kind of frustrated me lately is when everybody keeps saying the Namor and Sue stuff doesn't happen in the comics, because there is precedent of it. Like, people have tried to blow this off as saying like she's never actually into him and stuff, but like even if you want to say it's just life story, this is still some comic precedent.
To the best of my knowledge, there's also some stuff that gets a little touchy in terms of like
consent and all that.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why a lot of people choose to maybe be like, and I'm not a big fan of it either, to be honest with you. I've tweeted about it in the past. Of just
I'm not a fan of it, but when people
I know you're not.
Try to spin it as like it's never happened. I'm like,
yeah,
why are you saying that?
Yeah. No, don't worry. I'm not trying to spin you to be a fan of domestic assault, Jordan.
No, I'm not that big of a Fantastic Four guy, and I was aware that it was a thing. So from comic book Twitter and stuff,
like it's there. Yeah. It's just in the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something that has happened, but people try to blow it off as like it's never been a thing, or, definitely Namor pushes some boundaries there.
I didn't care for Namor in this series, but I loved the look in Sue's eyes when she said, "What about Franklin?" And she's like, "No, I'm not doing this." That was a really good part.
It is. Something that a lot of people don't like to do is, like, everyone loves to say like, oh, I love to watch a hero that's like humanized, right? But humanized isn't just in the sense of like, oh, they're sad over somebody they lost, or somebody they died. Like, humans are imperfect, and like Sue didn't even do anything wrong, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like, they don't always do the thing that's right, quote unquote, like, even though she was right in that situation, and depending on the side of the fence you're on, I should say, she was right in that situation, because Reed was not around. He was distant. He was imperfect in that moment, right? On a very core level, not just like the surface level, like hero overcoming his flaws thing. Like, it was a developmental flaw in him. And a lot of people don't like they come to watch and read about superheroes because they want a hero to look up to. They don't want to see that imperfection kind of thing. So I think that's why a lot of people do brush past not just that, but a lot of the sort of infidelity type stuff in comics.
Which is kind of crazy to me, because this is what made Marvel as popular as it was, is that these were not the perfect DC characters of the time when Marvel was coming out. Marvel made them human with imperfections, and it resonated with people.
And you had so many examples of like heroes being kind of human and not doing what you would expect. I mean, Captain America's drinking carrot juice, saying, "Hey, maybe we can sit this one out."
Yeah,
So, like, I mean, that's not a Captain America that could do this all day.
yeah.
And
Dude, they show who do they show? Cap, Black Panther. They show like a bunch of heroes in the second issue, like essentially just working for their own interests. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they shine a light on that big time in this, that the human flaw, the human imperfection, as it were, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very
And that's
much
what like Reed is so upset about this, right? Like when the president Reagan is like, let's point it towards Russia, and he's like, only an idiot would point a gun at his own head because he's thinking we're all the same race, like we're the human race, like the thing is out there, like I've seen it, and nobody's listening to him. But we also see Spider-Man, and this was like one of my favorite bits as well in the third issue because it's just classic Peter. When Johnny is like, can't believe I'm coming up on 40. How are you taking it? And Peter says, well, adult contemporary music is starting to make sense to me.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to see them have at least a little bit of interaction in this before he,
Yeah, true. Because he dies at the end of the 80s one, right?
Yeah, the third issue. Yep.
Yeah, so like halfway through.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see them together on screen, man. Oh, it's going to be so good. Tom Holland and Joseph Quinn. Oh, it's going to be.
Yeah, that'll be great. I think one thing that really worked for me on it was, especially the second time, is we were just talking about this too, that the trailer that they just released, even before I saw the new trailer for this movie, I felt like Life Story would be a good roadmap for this because we've heard rumors of like they're going to have a montage of them fighting villains. This in the 60s, we see them fighting villains in a little montage. We have the statue of them that I'm pretty sure is in the movie. We have
them on the talk show.
The talk show. We have Reed. What I think the chalkboard and everything is probably going to be obsessing about the coming of Galactus, and that not to the extent of this Reed. Like I don't think his family is he's gonna lose his family or anything, but it's like taking nuggets of this stuff that they can use without dialing it up to the extent that they did in this story.
I am gonna say I think he does lose them. I just don't think Sue goes and gets with somebody else. But I think my theory is the thing that we see with the beard, that's going to be like post time skip as Galactus shows up. And I think there's going to be something maybe like at the end of the second act where they all go their separate ways. And then Galactus is what ends up bringing them back together ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's in the movie. Sue is going to say, no, I'm going to pull you back in. I think she's going to be the glue of this group. And I think the emotional maturity to make Reed not withdraw into himself.
Also, in the 90s issue, Reed kind of makes a speech to the world that is very similar to the trailer where he's mentioning about like, we're going to do our best to save you guys and like protect you guys. And it was very similar to this speech in the comic. And I was like, oh boy, like this is pretty exciting. But like you said, Chris, I do think that the Sue will keep them together a little bit more. She's not going to be running off the Namor because as far as we know, there is no Namor in the Fantastic Four universe before he pops up in Doomsday.
I hope.
They are both in Doomsday.
They are in Doomsday, yes.
Oh my god! I
would expect the reference to him like hitting on her as well.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be pretty funny too, because like Pedro will step in. It'll be good. It'll be like just a wink for the fans that know.
Yeah, that's as far as it should go in the MCU.
Agreed.
For now.
I actually really also like that Ben meets Alicia online dating.
Yeah.
Like they update some of that stuff a little bit, so I really like that because it really makes sense for like blind dating to like a blind date, usually meeting somebody online, especially back then before like dating apps and stuff. That was But I just love the little nuggets we get, like Wakanda had come up with a cure for AIDS, right? Like, um, that kind of stuff just made me really interested. It felt like in these 6 issues, we still got a fully formed Marvel universe.
Yeah.
That's something I gotta give credit to the writers of this story for, because this is a brand new continuity that's supposed to be like a, condensed like Marvel 616 universe, but we still get little nuggets enough just through like little news reports or from the president stuff we see or from the narrator that gives us enough info about the greater world, that even just that little lore drop of like Wakanda is still trying to do stuff great for humanity after being opened up and stuff, like they're finding cure for diseases. That's something I really got to give credit to the writers of, because it made this world feel alive. You probably could have went. All right, so the way that people are talking about the Superman movie, where they're like, why can't we just get Superman? Why does it have to have Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl and stuff? Like, I think there's a way you could have done this life story without touching on those characters, like the, regular Marvel universe, and it would have felt a little emptier. So, like, I like when we have, like, this is a comic book, they can pop up. We have Tony Stark helping out with Reed as he's trying to pitch this stuff to the government. Like, those little touches I thought worked very well.
They're all characters that are so essential to the Fantastic Four too, right? Black Panther, Steve Rogers.
Namor, yeah.
These
Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, these are characters that are absolutely integral. And it's cool because we do see a little bit of that mini growth and progression, like in those small snapshots we get of them. Like I mentioned before, they show that little montage in the second issue of like how the heroes are kind of operating on their own and not really working with the government. Then the next issue, we see them, they go and they ask Sue to speak on their behalf to the government. Like it's, working through the progressions, and we're seeing how they become sort of the world's heroes and like trying to work with the world's governments and things like that, as opposed to just being the rogue kind of like Civil War era Cap type heroes. You know what I mean? Vigilantes almost.
We just talked about Devil's Reign and how it kind of got convoluted with like multiversal Doc Ock stuff, as Jordan would say. And like, I feel like
so silly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is so silly. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I feel like this did a better job of including all of the Marvel world without getting lost in the sauce of the comic bookiness. Like it was like, I mean, we see
give
Miles.
Give me Daredevil life story with it focusing around Fisk and Daredevil.
Oh yeah,
with Fisk's becoming mayor at one point, and you can have a Devil Reign story that fits in a lot of stuff like this without going multiversal Doc Ock. Like this was focused all on Galactus and then Doom, and that makes sense.
I think the advantage for this is it was a separate thing.
Yes, it wasn't
was part of right. So that's kind of the explanation. But I just thought that they did a really good job. I mean, we had Miles and saying, I haven't destroyed one of these things. And then Captain Marvel's like, well, I've got it 5 if that's good. It was just like, that is so cool. Like it didn't take over the story. It's just fun. I enjoyed that panel.
And you get to see like the new generation. I like that. Like,
yeah.
And then we get to see old man Cap rock out.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that was awesome.
And he's like, one thing I've learned is that they're never afraid to try a bad idea twice. So these fascists keep popping up, and he's got the shield, and it's just like, This is just so Cap. Love it. Love it. Sure. We need that. We need that right now. I was like, this was written in 2012?
2021.
No, 2021. 2021.
Oh, that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
I thought this was like 2012, and I was like, man, they can see into the future a little bit here.
It's like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
One thing I'd scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, they get it right too often. One thing that did kind of surprise me a little bit in this was the depiction of Galactus. Not that it was bad, I thought it was pretty cool, but it seemed like a much more intently destructive Galactus than we're used to, right? Like normally it's a Galactus who like feeds because he has to physically sustain. This is one like he shunts Reed and who was it? Ricardo, what's his face? Let me go to my notes. The guy Ricardo Jones. Remember at the end of the first issue where he like shunts them in and they're all in front of his head and he's just like, I'm gonna come and eat your fucking world. And he like just he just like vaporizes or yeah, he does, even though Ricardo tries to help Reed get out of there, but he like vaporizes him. He just totally just kills Silver Surfer at the end, like a very cruel.
I love that though, because that moment when he kills Surfer is like I don't think he's doing it out of like haha technicality. It's almost like I'm relieving you of this.
Yeah.
And because you've been a servant of me for so long, like I'm putting you out of your misery. Like you've been alive for so long. I'm putting you down, which is maybe something that Surfer would have wanted. I don't know. But I do like Galactus not being gray in that sense. Like in the case of I'm doing this because I have to. It's like it borders a little, I don't know, it like borders a line where I'm like, I don't really want to feel sorry for Galactus.
Yeah.
You know, like this guy's trying to eat my planet. Like Earth is also ours, right? So it's like, I don't know if I feel sorry for you, dude.
I think that's where they're going to try to take us in the movie for what it's worth.
Yeah, they may. They may.
I like the idea of Galactus being this world conquering kind of Genghis Khan in space thing. I like the idea of him being ruthless, and I don't like the idea of him being this almost a disease that spreads across the cosmos.
A natural disaster is how I like it.
Yeah.
But I really dug the countdown to Galactus Day. Like,
yeah.
You know, it reminds me of like when people were there probably would have been a lot more looting. In the real world, but it kind of reminds me of like the countdown to 2012 when people thought the world was going to end because of my account. Y2K. But like this one they knew was going to happen. Well, I guess maybe there could have been some that doubted it, but Silver Surfer arriving is definitely kind of like a nail in the coffin there.
Yeah. Look, if you live in a world with these heroes and then Silver Surfer comes down, this is a Wednesday to you.
Also, loved him like breaking into their house that one time, and he's just sitting at their table. Like,
yeah.
Oh, but that shot with like the silver, like the surfboard, was like so awesome. Just the art in that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean the fantastic fun.
If I had a nickel for every time I read a comic this week that had Silver Surfer sitting at someone's kitchen table, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't really a lot, but that's kind of weird that I did the same thing twice.
What was the other one?
Death of the Silver Surfer. Shout out to our guy. Shout out to our guy Kobe, who said he hated it. I loved it. So whatever.
Oh, he hated it?
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing that really interested me about the Doom side of things is that he was still kind of trying to save the world, right? Like he tells the Surfer he will bend the knee to Galactus, but he will implement a breeding program that will provide 500 million for Galactus to feed on every year.
Which is like, at first he's like, let's just destroy half the planet so that Galactus doesn't even want it. And then he's like, fine, we'll give you 500 million people every year. Whatever.
Yeah, just I like the outside the box thought of that, but it is like scummy. It's almost like making a farm of humans to be like, we're raising you for slaughter.
It's awful.
I like how the Silver Surfer was just so impressed by it, though. It was like, it's not gonna work, but like, this is the best pitch I've heard, other than like, please don't do it.
And he's like, that's not good, but I'll take Reed as my herald. It's like, all right.
Yeah, but I really also like the fact that originally Reed was like, we're not doing it, right? Like he had finally moved on from it, accepted it, but then once he was back together with Sue and he sees Franklin and like Franklin's kids and stuff, he's like, I gotta do it. I got to do it. And but he, comes up with the plan that ends up leaving him in like you said, a vegetative state for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I'm talking about, man. There was real stakes in the story. The sacrifice was real. That's like the toughest part of watching these things sometimes, right? Like, even as I know it's not Tony Stark, but like even RDJ, who made the ultimate biggest sacrifice in all of superhero movies, he's back. Like, this was just cool. Like, this was just nice. It was a small little thing that they could just not have to worry about what's going to come a year from now, 2 years from now. Honestly, and I think the days are probably gone, but I would love more movies like this, or more movies like this comic, where there is just do a trilogy, have the stakes be real. Stuff like X-Men back in the day, although they're fucking coming back too. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying.
They weren't a great example anyway, because they were still coming back in the McAvoy era and everything.
Yeah,
bringing everybody.
Yeah,
no, the way the biggest one would be like the Raimi trilogy. You can watch those and avoid No Way Home, and it wouldn't matter. Like, it's fine, right? Or if you wanted to go the Dark Knight trilogy, those are untouched. They're not convincing Bale or Nolan to come back for those. I really don't, for anything like that. So that's I'm kind of torn in it, because what I kind of want is what I think I'm getting from Superman, which is like they could make a trilogy, but also have him appear in different things and it be focused on just the character. Like, maybe you get some of these other things, but like, it's kind of a bummer knowing that, like, when it comes to Fantastic Four, right? Like, we get this movie, they're immediately going to Doomsday and Secret Wars, but then they're also talking about already making a sequel of Fantastic Four. And I'm like, 10 years from now, when I'm watching this with my kid, right? What is my viewing order? Like, and that's kind of something I'm starting to struggle with the MCU as a whole, because I'm like, we've brought in the X-Men, we've brought in the Raimi film, so I'm like, do I, after Loki season 1, do I start being like, now the multiverse is there, and then I start watching Raimi and stuff, or like that's, I'm kind of lost on that kind of stuff. And when you can just have a trilogy for a character, that is kind of untouched, I think that is kind of a bonus for the normal everyday people who are watching this stuff.
Well, for me, the trilogies are the life-defining movies. I mean, you have the Raimi movies, you had the Dark Knight movies, you had the Guardians trilogy, the Captain America trilogy. I mean, when you actually have a trilogy and like a through line through those movies, there's more connective tissue when those characters are in the other world of it all. Like when Cap has a trilogy, and there's like Infinity and Endgame matter so much more for him than it does for, say, Captain Marvel,
who's been in one movie.
Yeah,
that's a downside.
And that's kind of a tragedy, because, like, come on, you need more of him. So it's like, yeah, I love trilogies. I think it's just a natural arc for like a movie progression.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rhonda, kind of to your point about Johnny's death and not coming back, right? Like, it's starting to invade every genre, not just the comic book genre, by the way. Because I saw them say that, like, they're bringing Paul Walker back for the last Fast movie, which I don't even watch those. But, like, and then also somebody was like, oh, they should bring back Shia LaBeouf for the next Transformers. And somebody's like, well, he was killed off somehow, like, off screen. And it's like, oh, but death doesn't matter in movies anymore. And I'm like, that's such a sad thing to say. I was very happy that James Gunn
said, is there a Lazarus pit everywhere?
I was very happy James Gunn said that dead is dead so far in the DCU. But, like, at a certain point, you have to draw the line. So I'm happy RDJ is back, but I'm happy it's not Tony Stark, right? Like, that's where I'm at with this going back to Fantastic Four. It's like, allow people to die and like mourn them, like, and what it can mean for the characters around them.
Allow sacrifice to matter.
It affected Reed so much. It affected the Thing. It affected Franklin. It, like, everything came from this, where they're visiting his like grave at the end of every issue after this.
It single-handedly brought them back together, literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, because that event before, like, you know, the whole nuke situation was what obviously brought them back just together from a, you know, physical sense. But him dying in that is what literally brought the team back together afterwards. And it meant something. It wasn't just like throwaway. You know, it's one of those things that it's to compare it to like real life. You can't just pretend that this stuff doesn't happen. You know, like you have to learn to accept like people are here and then they're not. And you have to just love the journey, all that kind of good stuff. Like, and it takes away from it when you just cut the knees out.
When exactly, when people say, but this happens in the comics all the time, I'm like, this isn't the comics. This is a movie. You're not going to have the actor forever. So just make do with what you got, with what time you have with these actors, and make us feel something. Like, that's where I kind of land on it, because that's the cool part about movies, is that like they're not the comics. You can do different things with them and not worry about we have to bring them back because we have to keep going for a new number one, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Ben talking to Reed in the vegetative state and saying we never really did this, and like it, like that's really real life parallel. Because how many people have talked to a loved one who's on their last days and they're not quite themselves? And I mean, I remember my aunt was like hooked up on machines, was barely there about a week before she died. And you do the whole goodbye thing and you say things, and my aunt Becca, and it was weird, man. Like Ben's like, I don't know how to do this. Like and that's a very real feeling. There is no way to do that. Like I wasn't even that close with her, but like I have such fond memories of her as a child, and like I connected to that because I think there's so many people who have been there.
Yeah. Everybody's been there at some point. Yeah.
Or will be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's a good.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, and it's a good way to, I see the other side of it, of like using comics and stuff as escapism. But I also think there should be the option there for a more mature audience who would like to see this kind of stuff, and young readers who would like to be able to come to terms with this kind of things in life through this medium. You know what I mean? To help them sort of come to grips with this kind of stuff through a medium that they like. Like, going back here like 15 years now, like, and in the years that followed, like the losses that I dealt with, like my mom and my sister, Walking Dead helped me through that shit, dude. As weird as that sounds, because all of that show, the messaging is just about like going on when you lose people, right? Finding something when you feel like nothing, finding something to keep going for, right? Like, I know it sounds corny, but like that shit is real. And like, I think that this comic, to tie it back, just did such a great job of that in a lot of different ways,
And there was a lot of escapism. If that's what you want, you got a lot of superpowers and Reed stretching and clobbering time. And you got a lot of stuff in there. So it's not like this
was fucking
sick.
Sick.
That was awesome.
What do we make of the Mad Thinker? Because there was a reveal that like there was this other, this was the most comic booky thing, right? When you have another scientist that Reed's working with, and then the guy's like revealing himself as he gets on the helicopter, like, oh, I'm actually the Mad Thinker. It's like, okay. But then he ends up working with Doom and getting the government contract and stuff. But like, that's probably the weakest. It's probably the weakest part of it for me is the Mad Thinker stuff, because I'm just not like super into him as a character, I guess. But especially how many times it was like, oh, and then it was a robot Mad Thinker instead, or whatever. It's like, all right.
They went to the well one too many times. That's the problem with that.
It felt like the only reason they did it was like to introduce the whole bots thing and set that up for the last issue. So
that
like I understand his reasoning for being there, but yeah, overall his role didn't really do anything for me.
And Franklin living in Wakanda with the wife and kids, and his
Yeah. What was that,
brother-in-law is
Shuri?
T'Challa.
Shuri he married?
I guess I don't really. I thought they said her name, but I didn't get it as Shuri, but maybe
Oh, I thought it was Shuri. Could be wrong.
I thought it was Shuri too, to be fair.
could have been. I mean, I was looking for a name. Maybe I was just blind.
Yeah, I think. God, I don't know. It was cool though.
That was cool.
Yeah, I really liked having Franklin living in Wakanda. He's got T'Challa helping him with the headband to help his powers, which then comes back again. When they're actually using it to defeat Galactus and everything. Just really, really cool. Again, like you said, how they tied in the greater Marvel world. But
Franklin's the only one that I think could have maybe used a little more, but I think it was just because
he kind of felt like Johnny 2.0 a bit, right?
Yeah, but if
That's
you start going into that territory, like then you're just opening up a crazy can of worms with Franklin's his full extent of powers. So I understand wanting to keep the focus on the family dynamic and all that stuff, as opposed to like Franklin's literally the most powerful being in the universe. So I understand.
I thought there was such a powerful kind of point of almost like neurodivergence, because it's like they're trying to suppress his powers and not let him be fully who he is, and then they should have just let him, and then they feel guilt over that, but then it was to protect them. And I feel like a parent of somebody who maybe has an autistic child or special needs child probably has gone through something like that, and I just more real world stuff in here that I pulled out of that. I just mature writing. I really.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't even thought of that. So it provides a lot for a lot of different perspectives too, I guess.
I mean, it really touched me, and it was like the idea of do you medicate? Do you not medicate? It's I thought that was really interesting, and I probably went down a rabbit hole that just was there for me, maybe not even for anybody else. Like the writers are like, cool, I'm glad it's in there. I didn't know, but
it is. That's all that matters.
When it comes to Franklin in the MCU, I just want to get your thoughts, Ron. How are they going to do this? They got to nerf him, right? There's no way they can make him be creating mini universes and stuff like he does or whatever.
Oh, he is going to do that, I think. You
think so?
They'll tease it. Yeah, they'll tease it in the movie. He'll be the one that saves, or not the one that saves, but the one that rebuilds after the end of Secret Wars. He'll play a very large role in that. I do think they will do something after that, like during the whole reformation of whatever this universe is going to be. Probably, it seems they're going to go the route of bringing maybe some actors, some old, some new, and just kind of squishing everything together. Kind of like, what were you guys saying? The CW Crisis thing? Was that what you guys said? Kind of like how they did that a little bit. So I think it'll be something like that. And I think that Franklin's going to do something where he realizes that his power is too strong and the whole power corrupts thing. And I think there's going to be some kind of almost like him putting a governor on himself that he doesn't know is there, to where when this new universe comes to be, he's still there and he's Franklin and he has powers, but he's not this universe shifting, crazy entity, that probably other entities are looking to come to try to harness the power and all that stuff. Because he's almost like a homing beacon, right? With that much power on Earth to anything and everything that's looking, the dooms of the world, the outer space fucking entities, the annihilists of the world, other dimensions. So it seems like something where he's going to be way too powerful. And it's not something you could do in movies. Honestly, I hate to say it, but they're probably going to do the same thing to Jean too. So we'll see. I don't know. But I do think there is going to be a big tempering of his powers after Secret Wars.
All right. Anything else about Life Story?
Just that it was I almost try not to swear, but it was just that it was freaking awesome, dude. I can't wait to. I'm already halfway through my second read of it. I was just, kind of flipping through before we started here, It's just so great. Anybody who hasn't read it, I so recommend it. It's a really, really easy read. It's only 6 issues. It's like, what, 35 pages per issue? It's standard, exactly what you kind of come to expect from your, normal comic. And it's just great. It's got all your Fantastic Four greatest hits. There's going to be a lot of stuff, surely, that's going to be in Fantastic Four First Steps that take inspiration from this. It's the perfect short form primer to get ready for this movie. And on top of it, just a hell of a story. So read it.
Seconded everything you just said. I mean, it was really good. I thought the maturity of the writing was very rare in comics. And anytime I can get that in comics, they tend to be more of my favorite comics. I love escapism. I love superpowers, and I love that fight at the end. But I love the majority of this writing, and it made me feel a lot of things. And I think comic books should be able to do that. So I highly recommend it.
And that'll do it for our discussion here on Fantastic Four Life Story. A tremendous comic, a tremendous story, and one that y'all need to check out. For Jordan, who just had to step out because the weather's getting crazy near him, and for Chris, I am Ron, and we will catch you on the next one.